Prince Albert, consort to Queen Victoria, was known for his strict moral code, intelligence, and commitment to public service. His early years were of emotional struggles and family scandals, which probably shaped his character overall, even though his personal life was frequently very strict and disciplined. Edward VII, known as Bertie when he was younger, was infamous for his luxurious lifestyle, his love of gambling, and had multiple affairs with high society ladies, in contrast to his father, Prince Albert, who became known for his moral integrity and loyalty to Queen Victoria. He started having affairs while he was young and kept doing so even after he got married to Princess Alexandra of Denmark in 1863. His relationship with Queen Victoria, his mother, was extremely disappointing. From an early age, Queen Victoria was very dissatisfied with Edward's actions, viewing him as a careless, resentful, and pleasure-seeking individual. When Edward's affair with an actress came to light in 1861, his father, Prince Albert, became so upset and angry that he personally travelled to Cambridge to discipline him. Victoria believed that the stress caused by her son's behaviour towards Prince Albert had triggered Albert's decline, and she blamed Edward for his death, which followed only a few weeks later. Edward was never fully forgiven by Victoria, who called him good for nothing and postponed his participation in official activities for many years. Edward was never true to his wife, even though he had a strong bond with her and loved their kids. Princess Alexandra maintained her honour, put up with his adulterous affairs, and remained a beloved and respected monarch. Alexandra chose for discretion and silence, in contrast to many royal women who could have openly criticised their husband's behaviour. She kept her dignity and high moral status by refusing to be humiliated by Edward's infidelity. Instead of causing public outrage, she concentrated on fashion, charity, and preserving her position as a cherished princess. She even became discreetly friendly with some of his mistresses over time, including Alice Keppel, whom she permitted to pay Edward a visit on his deathbed. Of all his mistresses, one woman stood above the rest, Alice Keppel. Unlike the others, she wasn't just another lover. She became a trusted confidant, a woman who could calm the king's tempers and even influence his decisions. But what makes Alice's story truly fascinating is how her legacy connects directly to the British royal family today. But more on that later. Edward had many affairs with actresses, aristocrats, and courtesans, but some of his most famous lovers included Lily Langtry. A famous actress and society beauty, Lily Langtry was Edward's mistress from 1877 to 1880. She was one of the first women in his life who was not of noble birth, which shocked Victorian society. Their affair was widely publicised, and they remained friends even after it ended. It is believed that Edward arranged a noble marriage for her to protect her reputation. Lady Daisy Greville, Countess of Warwick. Known as Daisy, she was a leading socialite and mistress to Edward for many years. She was a champion of social reform and introduced Edward to progressive politics, influencing his views on workers' rights and education. Their affair was an open secret, with Edward often visiting her lavish estate. Though not fully confirmed, Jenny Churchill, birth name Jerome, is said to have had an affair with Edward. It was also reported that Edward briefly had an affair with the well-known French actress Sarah Bernhardt. Another supposed affair during his later years was Pauline, Lady Metcalfe. He was known as Edward the Caresser because he spent a large portion of his early years in France going to private clubs and brothels. He also loved cuisine, wine, and lavish parties. He was charming, popular, and admired for his diplomatic abilities despite his scandalous personal life. Edward became king in 1901 at the age of 59, after waiting nearly 6 decades for the throne. Despite his reputation as a playboy, he proved to be a capable and well-respected monarch, improving British diplomacy and military alliances. Remember Alice Keppel, the woman who tamed the playboy king? Her legacy didn't end with Bertie. Decades later, her great-granddaughter, Camilla Parker Bowles, would find herself in a strikingly similar position, becoming the lifelong companion and later the wife of another British prince who waited decades to become king. That prince, Charles III. Like her great-grandmother before her, Camilla was once the mistress of a future king. And just as Alice Keppel stood by Edward, Camilla eventually became the queen consort to Charles III. It's a dynasty of scandal, love, and loyalty that has come full circle. Imagine spending decades preparing for a role only to remain in the shadow of a powerful queen. Both Edward VII and Charles III spent the majority of their lives as mere heirs, always waiting, always preparing, but never quite stepping into their destiny until very late in life. Edward VII waited 59 years to become king, while Queen Victoria ruled for 63 years. Charles III waited 70 years, as Queen Elizabeth II ruled for 70 years, the longest reign in British history. Both men spent their lives under the shadow of their mothers, two of the most iconic queens in British history. Victoria saw Edward as a reckless playboy, incapable of ruling. Elizabeth, while more measured, worried about Charles's progressive ideas. Queen Elizabeth II and Prince Charles had a complex and sometimes strained relationship, not due to personal animosity, but because of Charles's progressive views and his desire to modernize the monarchy, something his mother approached with caution and tradition. While Elizabeth was a steadfast, apolitical figure, Charles was known for being outspoken on social issues. His activism, personal views, and emotional nature were seen as potential risks to the monarchy, causing tension between mother and son over the years. Neither queen truly believed their son was ready for the crown. One example. In 2015, a court ruled that Charles's private letters to ministers could be made public. Some saw this as evidence of a prince who wanted to influence policy, which deeply concerned Elizabeth. For Queen Elizabeth, the monarchy's greatest strength was its silence. Never complain, never explain. For Charles, silence was never an option. By the time they finally wore the crown, both men were already past their prime. Edward ruled for just 9 years before his death in 1910. History doesn't just repeat itself, it haunts the future. Edward VII proved his mother wrong. Can Charles III do the same? Only time will tell, especially now. A king must lead, a father must heal. But can Charles do both? For the first time in generations, the royal family stands at a crossroads. Will Charles III be the king who heals, or the king who watches it all fall apart? Your thoughts matter. Do you think Charles III will repair the monarchy, or is this the beginning of the end? Also, will William and Harry ever reunite? If you enjoyed this deep dive into royal history, don't forget to give this video a like. It really helps the channel. But more importantly, I want to hear from you. What are your thoughts on this? Did anything surprise you? Drop a comment below. I always read every single one of your comments and would love chatting with you. And if you haven't yet, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss the next big royal twist. Thanks for watching, and I can't wait to see what you have to say.